Is there any interesting article in today's newspaper? Anything useful?
Agriculture, data revolution.
We have discussed all the things, right? We have discussed this in your childhood itself. Now you are all
Malaria vaccine.
more
Malaria vaccine.
serious aspirants. Panchayati Raj. Okay, so we'll try to see how we will try to justify all those things.
Yes.
Sorry. Projects in AP. Because statewide the issues won't make until there is a national level implication, right? Supreme Court tells UP to file status report. By the way, nobody is attempting this year prelims, right? Just for writing prelims. So try and avoid all such enthusiastic activities. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. So Supreme Court tells to file status report on Lakshmipur Kheri in 24 hours. So is it judicial activism?
Yes, sir.
There are terms like judicial activism, judicial overreach. So is this one such incident?
I think it is judicial overreach.
It is judicial overreach. Yes.
I thought it is judicial
Activism,
not over.
not overreach. Okay. So what is difference between activism and overreach?
Overreach is breaching its boundaries and doing the job of executive or legislative.
Doing the job.
Like going beyond.
Telling them will be more appropriate. Telling them what to do, what not to do. Because judiciary will never get into the ground, right? Okay. Yes. What do you think about this article?
Law. Supreme Court is supposed to be limited to law interpretation, but it is stepping into law enforcement.
Okay. So have you read an NCRT called as Indian yellow and red color cover NCRT, right? It's a very interesting NCRT. It has one of those lines which tells you the entire power of constitution is there to tell the states to put it some duties to the state. For example, right to life with dignity. Yes. So the farmers who died in that particular rally, all of them had this right to life with dignity. Yeah. So why do you think Supreme Court intervened here?
Of course, there is a fundamental right violation, sir. But at the same time, court should give such space, time and space where police
For
are
the
allowed to
executive.
investigate.
Okay. So is this a problem of executive or judiciary?
Sir, given the context, right now, the present judiciary is very active, and there are a lot of cases in the past where executive was also given chance for judiciary to step beyond its.
Okay. So technically, yes, please.
Joint responsibility of.
Joint responsibility. So technically speaking, we can justify both the sides if we want to, but normally speaking, if everybody is doing their job properly, we wouldn't have had the similar kind of scenario. Let's say that this might turn into a bigger event. It might spiral into more law and order problem also. So that is probably one reason why Supreme Court is entering, right? In earlier cases also, we have seen Uttar Pradesh government has tried to hush up things. For example, the Hathras case. So that might be the reason why Supreme Court is trying to intervene. So it is not to justify whether Supreme Court is right in intervening. This is more or less judicial activism, right? Supreme Court is being very active, proactive. Normally, sorry, it is not overreach because it has not done anything which executive should be doing, and Supreme Court is doing the same. Or Supreme Court is telling the executive to do the same. It is just asking the executive to submit a report, which is still total in the boundary of executive only.
So then, giving 50,000 is overreach, or activism?
Who said? Acha, the ex gratia, that is overreach.
Yes.
That is judicial overreach because I think it's a policy, right? The central government itself announced that I will give you 50,000, but it is Supreme Court had extended to everyone. the policy nuts and
Procedure
bolts, yeah, the procedures nuts and bolts is overreach, whereas I don't think 50,000 per se is overreach. Yeah. So think about it deeply. If the system is working perfectly, that means the executive is working perfectly. Minister's son or a stranger. If rule of law is there, if rule of law is there and law and order is, that means if justice is being served in the nation, then we wouldn't have this kind of agitations. Okay, unnecessary agitations. Yeah. So at the same time, we cannot say that prejudiced, that we won't get justice through this particular system. We will wait and watch. But there are in number of examples where law and order have been suppressed. I think there was a famous case of I forgot the issue. I forgot the name. In Uttar Pradesh only, he was a BJP MLA. He raped a girl. Unnao rape case. Yes. So many people of that particular victim's family were killed in road accidents in other ways. So all those witnesses were slowly dying. Even the Unnao rape victim, I think she met with accident or something. So there is no proof that people in power will be punished if they had the say, right? Vyapam scam in Madhya Pradesh, I think there also so many witnesses died. Hundreds of people were involved and so many, at least 60-50 people died because of various reasons, all accidental. We can understand that law and order is a severe problem. Yes. The next one, events. Yes, please.
Just a doubt over here. It says Supreme Court sent a notice to the UP government to do that. It should actually send, because in the FIR which was filed by the victims' family members, they filed a case on the minister's son. So shouldn't it be, the notice be sent to them? Why are they directing it to the government overall?
Sent to
Case which was filed, FIR which was filed.
For example, he will come and ask you, did you kill that person? What will you say? He will say, no, I didn't kill them. So whose responsibility is it to prove? In India, the criminal justice systems, the burden is not on the accused. The burden is on the state to prove that he is accused.
So that will be done by lawyers. Like, how is government summoned over? I didn't get that point.
Government means attorney general will come, state attorney general or somebody will come, right? That person will represent the state. When you read that quality, you will understand it much better, right? After completion, if you still have a doubt, you let me know. State is considered as person. When Uttar Pradesh is summoned, Uttar Pradesh chief minister won't come, right? Our entire Uttar Pradesh population. On behalf of Uttar Pradesh, one lawyer, state attorney general or somebody will come and represent the state. Okay. Here, principal teacher shot dead. Yesterday also we have seen a businessman was shot dead. So this is the vested interest trying to tell that all is not okay in Jammu and Kashmir. They don't want the chaos to end in Jammu and Kashmir. Think about it. I told you multiple times. As long as chaos exists, all this vested interest will thrive and survive. Yes or no? Oh, if there is no fault lines, if there are no fault lines, if there is no insecurity, who will support me? Right? If I keep killing, automatically now police will come or army will come and encounter few people. 1 or 2 innocents might die as a collateral damage, hypothetically, right? Or a person from a young fellow might be killed in the encounter. That will be turned into a religious angle. Yes or no? No mother or father will actually believe that his son is a terrorist, right? If tomorrow we come to know that a 19-year-old boy was involved in this particular murder case, okay, and he was encountered by the army, right? Then the entire community will say army is being brutal. Okay, so like this, they want to keep the violence of fire in Jammu and Kashmir to continue. That is the biggest reason. They don't want development. Just like Naxalites, what do terrorists do? They blow up all the schools in Jammu and Kashmir. They burn down schools. Why? They don't want children to be educated. They don't want development to reach the remotest corners of Jammu and Kashmir. If Jammu and Kashmir youth are getting justice, automatically they will believe state of India is on their side. They don't want that to happen. So they're trying very desperately to dissuade the people. And this will also hurt the relocation program of Kashmiri Pandits. A long time wound that is hurting India is the relocation of the Kashmiri Pandits. So now this will set back the relocation for 1 or 2 years minimum, right? So delicate thing, we have to maintain it, but there will always be some extra players, non-state actors who want to destroy the peace. And second thing, radicalization is very prevalent. We can understand by this. If somebody is on a killing spree, right, they are very bold. They are ready to die for that cause, right? Obviously, in Jammu and Kashmir, if you are caught with a gun, you probably will be shot dead. Okay, knowing that they are willing to do such atrocious activities, why? Extreme radicalization. Okay, and it is happening over internet, and these are homegrown terrorists. We did not inherit terrorists from Taliban or Pakistan. These are homegrown terrorists. So radicalization is still very prevalent in the country. But I think once the development starts reaching the remotest corners of Jammu and Kashmir also, people or families themselves won't support these kind of activities. Yes or no? By killing that businessman, they are hurting their own cause. People will actually hate the terrorist than the system. He was a very good person as far as the news reports goes, and he was there from 1990s. He did not vacate. So he's like the symbol of Kashmiri Pandits in the entire Jammu and Kashmir Valley, right? So by killing him, you are sending a wrong message that we should not trust the system. But actually, the trust on the system will increase. Why now? Why killings? That means system is doing something good, and they don't want that to happen. So all these things have to be noticed. Clear? And why school teachers? The same. They don't want to open the schools. Even if you open, teachers won't come. Then again, I'm willing, I can recruit more youth. Okay, it's a very, very deeply sad situation. I'm sure the army is more than capable to handle such kind of situations. Temporarily, they are having some fun. Soon we will get rid of all these activities. Think about the potential of tourism in Jammu and Kashmir. It's unparalleled. I think if Switzerland can have so much amount of tourism and make billions of dollars, I think if Jammu and Kashmir is very stable, just Indians itself will be more than enough to create huge amount of revenue in Jammu and Kashmir, assuming that we won't destroy the ecosystems, but tourism. Coming to a reservation article, we will discuss. Coming to this article, the malaria article. So malaria is a huge killer, right? Malaria killed more people than any plague, any World War II, World War I combined. So you can count the number of people killed by a humble mosquito. Yes or no? No country could win the total war against malaria, and we lost so many good people to malaria. Yes or no? A fever hospital. All of you have heard about it, right? Fever hospital. Why is it called fever hospital? The person who identified that malaria is caused by the pathogens in the mosquito, he discovered the medicine there only. He discovered it for the first time in the fever hospital of Nallakunta, just 50 meters from here, or 500 meters from here. You know, fever hospital, right? So Ronald Ross Hospital. So that is why it is called as fever hospital. Yes, we are very close to history, right? But we don't know. Okay, no problem. Yeah. So the same malaria is now having a new enemy in the name of vaccination. Okay, and these are just in the trials in Africa. So as per the Hindu, it's a good move, and scientifically also it's a fantastic move, right? And there are other ways to control the mosquito population. For example, gene editing. You must have heard about it, right? Gene editing. That means they will edit the gene of the female mosquito so that when she reproduces, she only reproduces only males. Okay, like this, after a few generations, the mosquitoes will die down because there are no female mosquitoes out there. I hope you understand the simple logic, right? Dan Brown origin novel also, he suggests a similar thing: castration through gene editing. Okay, so there won't be next generation of mosquitoes after a certain amount of time. So if I release few wild mosquitoes, which are genetically modified female mosquitoes, okay, they will breed with the local population and they will give birth, but all will be male. After a few generations, there are no females, so mosquitoes should go extinct. Okay, that is gene therapy or gene modification. But the problem is, there are hypotheticals, right? What happens if the same technology goes into the wild population, if it spills over into other animals? Okay. So I hope you understand. Very simple, right? All those who have seen the Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic Park is also gene editing, right? They take the gene of the dinosaur and mix it with frogs and all those things. Frogs are amphibians, and they can reproduce on their own without the help of any female or male. So in the same way, dinosaurs reproduced. So that is the outcome they didn't see in the dinosaur Jurassic Park movie. In the same way, this mosquito thing is a very gray area. Okay, but Bill Gates and others have backed it up, so they must have good amount of science. So that is one way. This is one way, and obviously Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and all such things are one more way. So there are 10,000 ways to fight the mosquitoes, but vaccine is the most common tool, most powerful tool.
Some term
Castration.
castration. Is this process called castration?
No. Castration is where you take away the ability of the male to reproduce, right? So here it's more about gene editing. I forgot it. I don't know. You just type in Google, right? Mosquito plus gene editing, you'll get that particular image, right? Okay. Sorry?
I hope the radical feminists won't be hurt by this.
Okay. But they are not in Africa. They don't have a 5-year-old kid who is dying every day on African roads, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the next step is to speedily implement the same and spread it as quickly as possible. So that's a good thing. You don't have to remember much for this malaria vaccine as of now. The only thing you need to remember is what is the name of the vaccine for prelims maximum. I'm sure by the more data will come the same. So don't worry about malaria. I don't see like how this article is very relevant to UPSC, but at the same time we have discussed it in principle. The core essence of this article has been discussed in the class. If you can recollect it, what is he trying to say? What are they trying to say?
Basically, revamping the supply chain.
So what he's trying to tell you is there are two kinds of reports. Both of the reports are trying to tell you that digitization in agriculture is long pending reform. We need to in the agriculture should be introduced. But I think this is the crux of the paragraph. This is the crux of the article. That is exactly what I used to say. The farmer bills are very progressive. Nobody has a problem with the farmers bill per se, but the wrinkles, the nuts and bolts in the farmers bill, how you are going to implement it, how are you going to empower the farmer, that is the problem. So that is exactly what he's trying to tell. Both the reports are talking about the benefits of agriculture without thinking about the capacity building of the farmer. So if a farmer does not know or do not have a world-class contract or a lawyer, okay, he will definitely have some kind of issues. I'm not saying that is by design. Government is not planning to cheat the farmers or anything like that, but it actually increases some small problems. For example, I told you fast track courts. Without fast track courts, if your cases are pending, then even the best contracts in the world cannot help you. So do you have a dedicated mechanism for farmers only? Do you have a dedicated court or a fast track court or a tribunal only to deal with farmer cases? Okay, that is very costly, at the same time helpful for the farmer. That is a trust building exercise. Yes. Are we using technology like blockchain technology, escrow nowadays are very popular? Why? The core is trust. For example, I don't know Narayan and Bhavishri. I don't trust them, like total strangers to me. I'm a farmer. But if I do a blockchain agreement with them, okay, if I give them the goods, then they will give me the money. And it's not in our hands to stop any of these transactions, right? Let's say there is a escrow account. Escrow account means a middle account where both of us will have access. Okay, I will put money in the escrow account, right? Before the contract is done, I will give this laptop Narayan, right? Then automatically he will say yes, and the escrow will release me the money. Unlike the old Don movies, throw me the money, I will throw you the suitcase. Yes. So escrow account removes all this drama, and it is verified through blockchain. That means tomorrow he cannot come and edit the bank account records or anything. Everything is 100% trust, right? So that is why blockchain is so powerful and popular, because of the trust to strangers. NFT, non-fungible token. Let's say you are a good photographer. You have taken a photo in a national park. You have kept it on the web. I can copy it and I can spread it throughout the internet. But the original copy belongs to you. Why? Or how? How do I know that? Because you have metadata. You exactly taken a camera, Nikon camera, this amount of time, this geographical location, everything is geotagged. Along with that metadata, you are able to sell me the photograph. That increases my trust, and that is locked through blockchain. Yes or no? So that means tomorrow someone cannot download a picture from internet and say this is the original picture. Where is the metadata? You don't have the metadata. He has the metadata, and he's authorized by or guaranteed by blockchain. So such kind of guaranteed systems with that ease are not as of now in the market. So that is capacity building, right? Contracts, escrow contracts. There are many things that can be done, or even in the land record case. I hope you understand. So that is what should be done. There is no stopping of technology. As Victor Hugo says, no force on the earth can stop an idea whose time has come. Right? It's time for Indian agriculture to revamp. There is no doubt about it. But how are we going to handle the existing population is the core question. Tomorrow IIT people will come, instead of coming to UPSC preparation, after IIT, they will directly go to farms, right? They will take their company's loan, venture capitalist, they will invest hugely in the technology, they will occupy huge amount of tracks. What about an ordinary farmer? Because he is an educated fellow, he knows what is blockchain, what is law and all those things. He will exploit the system, in the sense, he will take advantage of the existing system, new system. But what about some old farmer? He do not know. Yes or no? Think about it, how rapidly the traditional auto driver perished. Just think about it. In your own lifetime, with your own eyes, you have seen a traditional auto driver being perished. Yes or no? How many auto drivers do you see even today that, I will discuss only through negotiation? Very rare, right? Either there is Ola, Uber, or thing. Very few people actually stop the auto and discuss. Only that too for short distances. Yes or no? So if you don't adapt to the system, you will perish. That is what will happen to the farmer also in the long run if there is no security, nuts and bolts. Clear? So the last paragraph is full of value system. I totally appreciate that article, and that is what I was trying to tell from last 1 year. It's nobody's case to argue that farmers' bills are not good. Farmer bills are good, but we need that capacity building exercises. Right? So that is how we discuss this article. Any question?
7 days. 7 days. Ocean farming.
Which column?
The forecasting.
Okay.
Best food and ocean.
I'm not aware, but I can guess. I think I missed that line. I will get back to you because I don't want to give wrong information to you claiming I know everything.
So what is the today forward future back approach?
Drastic investment opportunities by
No, sir.
today forward. I think that is exactly what he's trying to tell you, right? That report has it and predict that drastic investment opportunities developed by agri sector is estimated to give more active system. That is exactly what he's saying, right? Today forward, future back approach. Futures contracts. There are contracts, right? There are types of like in the sense contract farming. Basically, what are futures? I told you the tomato example, right?
Okay.
The future, I will in 3 months I will give you 100 kgs of tomatoes. So today's futures, today's contracts or today's forwards, future back approach. That means
Okay.
we'll get certain things as
Today there is a
promised,
contract, and in future I'll get the money.
basically. Right? Okay, the core theme is anyone going to change anything about the farmer field? How do you increase the capacity of such a huge number of population? That also is a very important
big
question to be asked. This all of you have read. What is something new in this article?
This moral hazard term is the first time I'm hearing.
Okay.
And,
Moral hazard, fiscal discipline, all these are technical terms we can learn, right?
And also they compared private ARCs with bank backed things very nicely. Why private cannot handle?
Have you read this article? No? Okay. So what we will do is we will do half paper of today, half tomorrow, or today's paper tomorrow. We might get some time to complete the paper because most of you are not finding some time to read today's paper today, and you are coming to the class, right? So we can do some articles of today, and we can do the rest of the articles tomorrow.
No, sir.
Today's paper today.
That's like
Eating
liberalizing.
It's like eating pizza after work.
No, that won't be good, sir. Please.
Think about it. We'll try to at least skip some articles so that we can discuss them in totality. But again, we have actually covered bad banks, so don't worry about bad banks. The simple questions are: will bad banks solve the Indian problems? No. All of us know that. What is twin balance sheet problem? All of us know that banks won't give new loans unless companies repay the old interest. Okay. Next thing, if bad banks are taking away the loans from the SBI and other banks, scheduled commercial banks, the balance sheet of the new old banks will be healthy. Seen. That is hypothetically thought about. Next one, what about the incentives? See, bad bank is not an automated mission, right? It's an organization. What is the motivation for that organization to spend all its energies in recollecting the loans? What are the other legal systems that are there to strengthen the legal system or to motivate the system? For example, I have appointed all of you as a member of bad banks. Okay, if you are SBI, you know that you are getting interest rate. Whenever you call a customer, do you need a credit card or something, you know that he will use it, your business will expand. What is the business model of bad bank? How do we incentivize the members of the bad bank? What should be their capability or what should be their qualification in relation to banking? Bad banks, all they need to do is collect the debts, collect the debts, and when the debt comes, the 85% bonds that we have given to the banks, 15% we are giving cash, 85% bonds we are giving. So we have to collect the bonds and give the cash. Vijay Mallya came back, he gave 10,000 crores to bad bank. Now it has to find all the bonds and give the banks their money and get back the bonds. So that is what bad bank is supposed to do. So what should be the motivation mechanism for the bad bank employees?
High salary.
Again, even if I give you one, okay, but that is like pouring more water into the drainage to get more water, right? Yes or no? You can understand it, right? It's already clogged. The system is clogged. I don't want to pour more water. To recollect 10,000 crores, I cannot spend again. Right? That is point number one. You understand the problem, right? Second thing, what are the guarantees that they will recover? What is the time frame? we having an outcome? Say this is 2020. I will run the bad bank till 2040. I will run it for 19 years or something like that. Then I will measure the performance. If the performance is not satisfactory, like let's say there is not even 30% recovery, I will shut it down. Yes or no? So is there some thought process like this, or should we perennially keep the bad bank running and accumulate? Because every time we give a new trick to the bankers, they will use the trick. They will give new loans. NPA increases. Old NPAs are sold to bad bank.
banks.
SBI is healthy. Just like evergreening of loans. What are you going to stop that from happening? You got the idea, right? So you should have such a thought process behind this. Next is, what about this IBC code, SURFACE Act? Okay, and remember, RBI used to call something called as dirty dozen. Even now, when we created the bad bank, I think only 26 NPAs of all the loans given, only 26 loans have more accumulate to 90,000 crores or something like that. Okay, it's not like there are huge NPAs from different sources. Few people actually have more NPAs, right? So for bad bank to work efficiently or to recover the loans, IBC should also work very nicely. Insolvency and bankruptcy code should work flawlessly. But right now you can see insolvency and bankruptcy code is slowing down. It's not working perfectly because of various reasons. In the starting, IBC was working fantastic. Then we wouldn't probably have had the need for IBC bad bank itself. But we intervened in IBC so many times, we destroyed the entire essence of IBC. So without IBC, can bad bank recover the loans? No. You get the idea, right? So everything is interlinked.
Actually, it is to be thought in this direction that at least there is a step towards it. There is a thought for from the government side to recover this. Like
that is why IBC was created, right?
Of course, but
see, you are creating a new building. Okay, you are creating a new building, but building won't work on its own, right? Again, within the people hands, you need to put some sticks. You created bad bank, fantastic idea, no doubt about it. It will give a perception that NPS problem will be solved. I totally appreciate it. You hired the best people, 1 crore salary from Pune to CEO. Everybody in the bad bank is a rich fellow. Okay, what is the tool in their hand to recover the loans? Will they go like Batman to USA or UK and bring Vijay Mallya back? No, right? What is the tool? Probably they also are dependent on IBC. Okay, the only luxury is, instead of SBI worrying 24/7 about all these headaches, it will be full-time job of the bad bank employees. SBI can focus on loan disbursement, branch expansion, financial inclusion, app development, so on and so forth. Whereas 24/7 bad bank people will be talking about loans, NPAs, IBC, and this process. Legal procedure also. So headache is outsourced to bad bank, whereas smooth functioning of banking is kept with scheduled commercial banks. Clear? So these are all different thought process that we can derive from the particular article. And again, they are inevitable. Please. No, nobody is that innocent, right? Like we don't actually believe them to recover. It's a perception management. You are a shareholder of SBI. SBI NPS are like, let's say, 8%, hypothetically. SBI NPS are 8%. As a shareholder, you are worried that SBI is not performing well. You have sold all your NPS to bad bank. Okay, your NPS came down to 2%, right? And you also have bonds to back up the money that you lost. So your balance sheet is very clean. So as a SBI shareholder, you are very happy or not? So it's all about perception management, right? Then there is also something called as prompt corrective action. If let's say IDBI Bank is there, Indian Development Infrastructure Development Bank of India, its NPS went to 8 or 9%. Once you cross 9%, you will be kept under prompt corrective action. RBI will come and beat you. Okay. So what do? Government will take some NPA and sell it to bad bank. Suddenly your NPS came down to 3 or 4. You are safe from RBI's wrath. So like this. Perception management and reality. You are the owner of NPA right now, right? So you will start a legal. Yes. And what he's trying to tell you is NPS are a inevitable concept. NPS are a circular concept. When business is going fantastically, NPS will reduce. When business is down, when the economy is down, automatically NPS will increase. COVID, nobody saw it coming. NPS definitely must have tripled or doubled.
Yes, sir.
Only when we actually do the stress test, we'll come to know the reality. So many people must have gone into debt. Okay. So in normal times, maintain as less NPS as possible so that in disastrous times, even if NPS increase, you can happily manage them. That is the core summary of this entire bad bank discussion. We'll see how it goes. Stronger at the grassroots. Panchayati Raj. What is the summary of this article?
Community involvement and disaster management.
So the first and foremost thing is Eleanor Ostrom. Eleanor Ostrom. Who is Eleanor Ostrom? The first female Nobel Prize winner in economics, Eleanor Ostrom. Okay, she did a wonderful case study and research on simple thing: global problems, global commons, water, air, river, land. These are all everybody's common resource, like global commons. But everybody have a problem, everybody destroying. So how do you solve global problems? So she gave a simple solution, that is local solutions. Global problems, local solutions. So that is the only thing she said. If you can understand it, for that reason, for simplified purposes, she got Nobel Prize. Why? I cannot tackle the air pollution as a global problem. I have to tackle it at a local level. If everybody is functioning at a local level, they will modify the problem according to their own needs, and they will try to function on the same. In the same way, epidemics and all these things are global problems, right? But the solution is local. Who is the first responder you see in a village? Somebody you know. Your own panchayat is the first line of defense that protects you. Yes, whenever something bad happens, if the local population is working fantastically towards your own goals and collective goals, that will solve a lot of issues. That is exactly what this article is trying to talk about. Be tackled from Delhi, it has to be tackled at local level. Simple, right? Till she told, it was like, wow. Yes or no? But once we see, did she really get Nobel Prize for that? Yes. Why? Simplicity is ultimate sophistication. We always think big problems need big solutions, huge approach, big bang solutions. But in reality, small changes at the local level will create drastic efforts. If every village in this country or every 10 villages in this country have a oxygen plant, okay, a world-class primary healthcare center, don't you think the burden on the healthcare system will come down drastically? Yes, or even more, prevention is better than cure. Yes, the Cuban model, for example, polio vaccine, everybody will come to the home every week, monthly or yearly. Some people will ask you, are there any kids like that? So how many times a government physician or a government member came and asked you, are you obese? Do you have hypertension? Do you have any small disease? We don't allow it. We don't go to the hospital until it's escalated, right? Even you have a knee pain, you will postpone it till certain age. Once you go to the doctor, then he will tell you there is nothing he can do about it. So prevention is always better than the cure. So in the same way, at local levels, if we start doing all these things, we can reduce a huge amount who died in COVID are either having a existing pre-disease? Yes or no? They have kidney problem, heart problem, lung issues, something like that. They are the first victims. Yes, then the age bracket. So by investing in local panchayati level and empowering them, not only investing, we have to empower them in reality. We can make a huge difference, either for disaster or epidemics. Clear? Think about it very easily. It will make more sense. And you can link these ASHA workers to almost everything. They are the primary block. They are the foundational block of Indian healthcare system. If you want to reduce population, who will tell the villagers? ASHA workers. If you want to distribute contraceptives, who will distribute? ASHA workers. If you have to increase the spacing in the birth, ASHA workers. Institutional delivery, ASHA workers. Corona testing and corona vaccination, ASHA workers. Everything is either ASHA worker or Anganwadi, especially for rural areas. You know the amount of salary they get? It varies from state to state, but it's as low as 6,000, 7,000, 10,000, but they put in so many hours of work. Okay. Same farmer, more or less same as a farmer, but the work is more important, right? Like she's life changing for the rural healthcare system. Sorry. Everything. I mean, the burden of work on them is like humongous, but the salary they get is peanuts. And they are the primary people who can motivate you to come out of vaccine hesitancy. Yes, vaccine hesitancy is also a huge problem. Again, it's the local population that will change the things. So what we need to do as a country is to empower the local self-government and the local healthcare units. So then automatically the burden will come down drastically. But what are the problems? Theory is very good. We can do this, we can do that. In practice, what are the problems? State finances. We have money for populistic measures, but not for the salaries of these people. They are not properly trained. They don't have infrastructure. Yes, they are not properly digitized in the sense they don't have good connectivity. Then corruption, casteism, political domination. Or illiteracy. We cannot use it here, but we can use it for other places. One South Indian state perfectly fits the bill. Identity politics has suffered the development, has led to loss of development. Identity politics has led to loss of development. Identity politics means you are getting voted because on the basis of your caste. One South Indian state probably where you are from, and I can understand it very easily. No? Yes. What is the identity politics in your state? What is the first example? Right? Now you can think of a South Indian state. Which South Indian state fits the bill?
Does it matter? Every so.
Everyone feels good. AP has
No comments. I don't think AP fits the bill. How can I say that? You have to think on your own. Does AP fit the bill? Identity politics. Identity politics led to damage of development. Textbook example. Whatever she told. Yes or no? Pradesh fits the bill very perfectly. Recently, Amaravati, all the lands of Amaravati are purchased by a particular community. So that is why I don't want Amaravati. I will have 3, 4, 5, 6 capitals. What happened? Government asks top court to set quotas for promotion. Okay, this was an article from yesterday. It's a small but interesting topic. the reason that government is saying, or government is trying to tell that there are group B officers, group C officers, but very few people from scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are in group A positions. So that is why we need to forget the criteria and fill as many vacancies as possible. So this is what government is trying to tell. Supreme Court is saying you cannot breach the 50% limitation, and if already 16% is filled in a particular job, okay, you don't need to fill in extra people. But government is saying it will take huge amount of time for this to be reflected in group A post. So we need to fill more number of people from scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the group A post. Okay, so we'll see some basic details. 75 years of independence. The number of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes people in group A services are very being discussed. And constitution also supports the same argument. Constitution gives article 16(4)(a), which says reservation reservation in promotions is constitutionally legal. Okay, reservation in promotion is constitutionally legal. Normally when we hear about registration reservation, it is at the entry point. We talk about entry, but reservations in promotion is also legal according to Supreme Court. Okay, but in Nagaraj case, it has set certain conditions. What are the conditions? The backwardness of the class should be there, inadequacy of representation should be there, and it should not affect the overall performance of the departments. By hiring more SC, ST people, you should make sure that you're just not filling it for quota purposes. The overall efficiency should also be not hampered. So this is what Supreme Court said. Okay. Then recently in 2018, it also said you don't have to community. Right.
So then how can they say that the representation is inadequate without quantifiable data?
It's very evident, right? If you take all the principal secretaries in the countries, like the topmost, apart from cabinet secretary, the next highest position of the principal secretaries, you can easily see if there are, let's say, hypothetically 90 people, how many of them are from SC and ST community?
But isn't this institutionalization of identity?
No, it is
identity politics.
it is empowering certain groups of the population which are backward even after 75 years of.
At the cost of compromising on competency.
So that's your argument, right? You are adding an attribute. So you are by default adding an attribute that a particular community members will not be meritorious, or they won't bring efficiency to the system.
I mean, empirical
How do you
data-
quantify efficiency in government?
The entrance exam marks cutoff will be the first yardstick to measure it.
They have entered the service. It is taking a huge amount of time for it to reflect. Today AC joined as let's say Tina Dabi hypothetically joined the system. It will take 30 years for her to reach a topmost position. So there is a huge amount of deficiency in the representation.
So why I said I'm not adding an attribute,
Hmm.
but promotion obviously depends on performance. So
In
if
India,
they are not
in
getting,
India, we don't use all such complicated things as performance. It's a tenure based. You are a donkey, you are a horse, you are an elephant. You worked for 10 years, automatically you are promoted. That's how bureaucracy works. Okay, if you add complicated things like merit, okay, it's very hard to prove merit in bureaucracy. I will tell you simple example. You are a social justice secretary. Okay, you are a secretary of social justice. How do I measure your performance? You are working 20 hours a day. Still, can I quantitatively prove that you have improved the life of a large number of people? Subjective term. So development is always a subjective term, right? So it creates a lot of unnecessary complications. Again, government is trying to bring in this particular reform through Supreme Court. We will hear what Supreme Court has to say. But in Nagaraj case and subsequent cases, Supreme Court has upheld the reservations in
promotion also.
but till a legal way. For example, if there is lack of proper representation, if there is huge vacancy of SC/ST communities, no, let's say no IAS officer about joint secretary cadre is from SC/ST community, then reservation in promotion is okay, right?
So then, didn't they investigate about the reasons?
1991 all these things happened, right? Till 1991 we didn't had this Indira Swamy judgment, OBC quota, SC/ST quota, so that led to a huge number of people from other categories filling all the top slots. So the joint secretary today cleared the exam 30 years ago. 1990 he cleared. After 1990, whoever joined is going to reach the top layers. It will take time, but we are accelerating the process. Okay. Yes, again, it's a very simple, complicated. It's a very simple process. Don't complicate it. And in this particular case, Supreme Court has ruled that reservation of matter is not a fundamental right. It's not guaranteed that Supreme Court, I mean, the state should empower you. The state feels, if the state feels there is a vacancy, if the state feels there is lack of adequate representation, as a matter of principle, state can give reservations, reservation in promotion, but it's not something that state should do as a fundamental right. It's nobody's right, because it will destroy the entire system as we know it. Entry is fine. Entry has no problems. Okay. So it's an ongoing issue. We will see how Supreme Court responds to the same. And yesterday, in today's newspaper, I think there is an article about EWS quota.
Yes, sir.
How did you arrive at the 8
8
lakhs?
lakhs.
So Supreme Court asked a question. So we'll see the state's response. All of you know EWS, right? EWS is economic weaker sections. It's a 10% reservation which crosses the 50% line of Indira Swamy judgment. Okay. Now, mega integrated textile, regional and apparel. Okay. Mitra. I don't know how they come up with all such names. PM Mitra scheme. So PM is Mitra, no. PM is portion, PM is scarce. PM is a lot. PM Kisan, very good. PM has multiple hats. So PM is the common denominator. The lucky fellow is next PM. He does not have to rename anything. Everything is already
His name.
in his name. Okay. Yes. Probably Vin Diesel of India.
Hindi and English it is the same. The Pradhan Mantri, Prime Minister.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So if you observe this diagram, what they are trying to do is they want to promote the textile industry. They are trying to textile industry. The other day I showed you the mobile charger example. First China created charger, then China created cover. Then they created a silicon, everything slowly they created everything, and automatically one day they decided to produce their own. Yeah, if you see this particular thing, what are they trying to put? They're trying to put the manufacturing at the heart of everything. 50% of the entire scheme goes into manufacturing, but they're also spending some amount of time on logistics, accommodation, working for the workers, okay, their training, their research, their testing, their development. So they are creating an ecosystem on the textiles. See, textile is a labor intensive industry. Textile is a labor intensive industry. Manufacturing is a capital intensive industry. Labor intensive means more number of labor can be absorbed by a particular industry. Textile absorbs a lot of people, especially women. Again, not stereotyping, especially women are drawn towards textiles. So they will need medical things, they will need housing. So I am combining both these things. I am trying to bring them to the same place. Again, it's not like a building. Okay, please don't confuse it with a building. Okay, the focus area is they are not only investing in the industries. Earlier they used to say, I will set up a textile park. All the 100 rupees is spent on textile park, but you don't think about the connectivity. Yes or no? So that leads to problems, labor retrenchment logistics. That means you created goods, but to transport them to Bengaluru and there export it, you are increasing 20 rupees cost. So what is supposed to happen at 100 rupees? 20 plus 20. You are selling at 140 plus taxes. Who will buy your goods? So if logistics is worked out, okay, probably you will sell it at 105 rupees.
Evidence-based policy.
Right? A lot of things have been invested. Next, research and development is also equal. What kind of dresses are people wearing? What kind of cloth is there? What kind of everything? So research, testing. So see, all these are for export quality, right? USA or some other European countries will put certain tax. You need to pass this amount of test. You should prove that there is no chemical in your thing, or no child labor has been used, or some other additional drama. 360-degree fashion. Yes, and government also give a simple thing: 1,000 acres or more. If you have in a particular area, let's say, normally what happens? Cities, tier 1, tier 2 towns. Cities and tier 1 and tier 2 towns. Tier 1, tier 2 towns, all of you know, right? Small towns, municipal towns. People migrate from tier 1, tier 2 cities to the cities. That is migration. We don't have quality about it. There is a 1,000-acre land between these two places, or a 10,000-acre land between these two places. There a textile park will be set up, and logistics or connectivity will also be worked out. So women from tier 2, tier 1, tier 2, men and women from tier 1, tier 2 cities will work in that ecosystem, that textile ecosystem, not park, that textile parks. Okay, logistically they are connected. People are also happy. Migration is not
Happening.
needed. There is no need for migration. Why? I can move from tier 1, tier 2 to city to the park, work there, and it is very close to the tier 1, tier 2 cities. And the dependency is reduced. Yes or no? The dependency is also reduced, and at the same time, we can work on development of tier 1, tier 2 cities, because the money will flow into tier 1, tier 2 cities, right? I hope you understand. So like this, the parks can be created. You can understand. Yes. If luck permits, probably they will develop, let's say, housing and all these things will be developed in the surrounding areas itself. Okay, that will develop into a town of its own. That means the entire park will be the heart of the ecosystem. Because of the parks, everything will be created. For example, if you go to Sanghi has a Sanghi temple is there, Sanghi school, Sanghi housing, everything is in and around Sanghi. The factory is at the core. Everything is created around that particular factory. In the same way, park is there, automatically development will be invested around the park. Clear? So that is probably how government is envisaging this textile thing, right? And this is for a labor intensive industry. And textiles have a huge amount of potential to exports. So it will also bring in a lot of foreign money into the country. Clear?
There was an article in Indian Express regarding urban planning. There he emphasized on a point tapping the potential of linkages between rural hinterlands near the cities. This will help in deurbanization.
Satellite cities.
Satellite cities, yes.
For example, Rohini, Dwarka, you know, in Delhi,
Delhi,
Rohini, Dwarka, or I think Whitefield in Bengaluru. I think all these are satellite cities. Satellite means there is already existing city. We need to develop cities in and around them so that people won't settle in the core area, suburbs, Western concept. Noida, Gurgaon, all these are also satellite cities. Relocate.
So the entire factory was shut down and it was relocated to the outskirts of the
Okay.
So likewise, so many other factories which were inside Bangalore were
Shifted outside. Yeah. So that's a progressive policy, right? Because once upon a time when all these factories were set up, they were outside the city. Now they are in the middle of the city. City expanded so much. So for health reasons and for their own logistic convenience, they are moved out of the city. Yeah. Clear? So you can read the rest of the text on your own, right? It doesn't take a rocket science to understand what the textile scheme is trying to do. Yes. How will that factories help or the parks help? It will improve the competitiveness of textile industry. It will provide a lot of jobs to millions of people, and it will also bring in economies of scale. As I told you, economies of scale means if we produce in a huge amount of number, the price will come down, and we will become global champions. Nothing short of Vishwaguru, global champion, miracle, master stroke. Yes, we'll do in the conclusion. Vishwaguru, we will become a global champion in what? Right now, who are the competition? China, our friendly neighborhood Bangladesh, and Vietnam are competition to textiles. So with the PM Park, we have to beat all these people both in quality and yes, exports. Actually, not quantity, it's price. We have to export world-class products at good
Cheap
price, cheap and best, best and cheap. Sorry. Only then our exports will succeed, right? And there is one more thing, Good Samaritan law. We have already discussed it, right? I have just added some provisions. If you have time, you can read it. Recently, government modified Motor Vehicle Amendment Act 2019. In that, they have introduced some rules. What is a Good Samaritan? The definition and what are the problems? For value addition, you can use this data. Economic loss of GDP is around 3%. 17 die people every hour on Indian roads, or else 400 people die every day. So those are the facts for introduction. You can start why road accidents is a very severe problem. It has a human capital loss and economic loss also. Then most people don't even save. Standards are unlikely to assist the road accident victims. 88 people have said that there are legal problems or police questioning. They want to avoid all these things. And 77 respondents say that if you bring a hospital victim, accident victim to the hospitals are asking you to pay. Right? So for all these reasons, they are not taking care of the accident victims. And Law Commission report also say that 50% of the victims are dying because of preventable injuries because they are not taken care of the time. Golden hour. According to Law Commission of India, 50%, but unofficially people say 90%. Chalo, we'll go with official record. Law Commission says 50% of the accident victims can be saved. That means in India, 200 people are dying every day just because we don't have legal awareness. So what does Good Samaritan law do? Good Samaritan law provides a lot of advantages. They have to be treated respectfully. They can inform the police officer or the hospital. They cannot be stopped. They should not disclose. The hospital cannot force you to tell your name, phone number, address, and all these things. It's purely your choice. So by adding all these provisions, Good Samaritan law will save a lot of lives. PDF, I think it will make more sense. I have shared it with you, I think.
This one, some shades.
EPFO results. Vision full length test. Sorry, 7 level. Yes, I have shared it the PDF. Please share in the group.
But statistics in the source also.
Yes, every time you mention a detail, you have to mention the source.
Like if I say this 3%, even for the introduction line, I have to.
Definitely.
So what is the source of that? Is that Law Commission or everything is from Law Commission?
Which source?
17 accidents per hour, 400 per day.
That is Ministry of Road Transport annual report. It's all official data. National Crime Record Bureau will also release the data. National Ministry of Health, Road Transport will release annual reports. So in such places, the details are provided. Okay, you can cite the official source itself. Finally, Air India goes to Tata Group for 80,000 crores. That's a good thing for India. We can remove one headache and move on. Yes. Anything else? Any questions?
Sir, I want. Apart from fake news in this WhatsApp and social media, there is a flush of wisdom. I mean, there are a lot of good things from even lot of sources. There are a lot of sources and there is a lot of wisdom. And some people just keep sharing those wisdom daily, every day, that people get so bored and start ignoring that. I mean, there is a lot in it, but because of excessive dosage of wisdom, people start ignoring it. What do we call this?
There is also subtle brainwashing. There is a subtle brain, such kind of things. For example, during COVID, you must have seen a message in WhatsApp which says there is a lion, there is a deer. You should give confidence to the lion. People are dying because of fear. You should only say, that is brainwashing in a way. If I'm strong, will COVID not affect me? Yes, people are scared. I totally get it, and people are scared more than they need to be. Depression and all these things are coming because of right. Why don't you directly attack that and be strong right now? Or you can use Swami Vivekananda by whitewashing everything away from the government very slowly. If you are dying, it's your weakness. Government has nothing to do. Oxygen cylinder has nothing to do. So that is one brainwashing. Okay, in the name of wisdom also we are selling subtle messages very nicely. That is one thing. What probably you are saying is pure wisdom, like a story from Bhagavad Gita or something like that. People reach an apathy state.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, yes.
Again, that is why Mahabharata is my favorite book of all time, because it's human nature to read what I see. Even if I read that Bhagavad Gita sloka, okay, Bhagavad Gita sloka or poem or whatever, I think it applies to 10,000 other people, but not me. Right? For example, hypothetically speaking, most of you must have relatives or someone. Yeah, they are blind to their own children's flaws. They love them too much that they ignore the flaws of their own kids. Okay, so when your father or when your relatives read that Bhagavad Gita sloka, Dhritarashtra Prema, the love of Dhritarashtra, everybody blames, Sonia Gandhi is blind to Rahul Gandhi's flaws. She is protecting him vehemently. What are your parents doing? To read, irrespective of wisdom. Yes or no? I hope you understand the logic, right? So that is why we feel we have reached the apathy state very quickly, because we think we know everything. But the problem lies in implementation. If that was true, that people actually change by facts or one particular motivational quote, okay, the world would have had less motivational books. Right? Every other day we have a new motivational book. Still there is a lack of motivation in the people, and there is a lot of depression, tension, stress, and all those things. What does that tell you? That tells that people only do what they want. They will understand it how they want. They will only read in their perspective, and it applies to everyone else, but not to me. Atma Chintan or introspection is the biggest problem, right? So that is why we reach that apathy stage. And at least, again, it goes on, it continues in so many 10,000 ways. Clear? Yes, we'll end the discussion here then.